we said that IT organizations needed to have 5 major things happening. One, an architecture around their digital technologies. So not just the traditional servers and databases, but their broader view, things that come from the consumer technologies, things that come from sensors and the fact that there's more intelligence being built into everything around us. We talked about them needing to have an information architecture, because a lot of the value we're going to find down the road is going to be how to use information in smarter ways, which actually plays right into the things that Joel talks about all the time. And here we were trying to be broader than the traditional information sets. So it's not only the financials or the information within IT, but the information from marketing, the information from customer service, the information from products. A lot of the information will come from the customers themselves, or from the devices that are out there all around us in the world. Or if you're a government, it comes from the citizens. The problem with information is, of course, we have security concerns. And we had some fun with this. A couple of key points. One was that every government is going to try to do more with information for security reasons. And our clients need to be thoughtful about where is the line. A lot of the US firms have some big problems with this right now, where many companies outside of the US don't want to work with the Google because they view it as just being an extension of the US intelligence community. And the Google guys clearly have a big problem there, as does some of the other firms. So this is an issue at that level, but it's also an issue internally. So the more information we have, the more there is that could go to the wrong people and have problems with it. Industrialized IT infrastructure was the idea of really seeing all of the normal companies use the same capabilities. Step across for a second. The same capabilities as the cloud companies do. So when you hear about an Amazon or a Google and how they virtualize their servers and can set something up in a matter of minutes, we think all IT shops need to be thinking that way, even if they still do it themselves. We did say that today, 80% of servers and storage and things like that are within data centers. In the future, only 65%. So in 2020, well, actually that was 2017. They will go from 80% down to 65% of the servers and storage will be in traditional corporate data centers. And the last point that I made most strongly is we need a new era of digital leadership. And the point here is the idea that whatever part of a business you lead, it may be you're the CFO, or you're the head of HR, or the head of products, or whatever it may be, you're expected to know how to run a budget. You're expected to know how to manage people. We believe that every leader will be expected to know how to use digital capabilities. And it's because they're all around us. You know, at this point, every 15-year-old is very comfortable using all the technology that they grew up with. And those things end up at work, and they can be very helpful unless you end up on the wrong side of the security and risk piece. Then from there, we built on the keynote from last year. So I don't know how familiar you all are with Gartner content, but for about 2 years now, we've been talking about the 4 big forces. The term we use is the nexus of forces that we think are literally changing the world. And they are mobile, cloud, information, and social. So we talked about this a lot last year. This year, we said that continues to change the world. And that's sort of the virtual side of things. And then we added in the idea of the Internet of Everything. And you may have heard of the Internet of Things. This is an extension of that. So we talk about the actual sensors out there, whether they're in consumer products or they're on a transmission grid if you're a power company, or an oil pipeline if you're an oil company. But there's a ton of things that will come off all the sensors and embedded technologies, the people and the places. We had some fun examples of how these things come together. One thing we got to when you get to 2020 as well is that a lot of technology will be invisible, because it will be literally in our jewelry. we're not too far away from having some pretty useful watches. You have places now where people have clothing that keeps track of their basic health data. So if you have a risk of a heart attack, or maybe you're an older person and you want to make sure that if something happens they can respond quickly, that kind of stuff is becoming more common. I actually told a little joke. I said, in 2020, we will put more computing systems into the washing machine than we've used in our lives until now. Because technology will literally get embedded in our clothing and in things that we have all around us, which creates a very different view of how the world works. And then from there we had a series of predictions. These are always interesting. So by 2017, 20% of the computers aren't just going to be about doing a business process, but they're going to be learning and making judgments. Where we're going with that is that the knowledge workers, on one hand, will be helped because the computers will help them make judgments, but in certain cases they won't be needed anymore. And there was a whole section we got into around smart machines and robotics that has some interesting implications on worldwide employment. So if you start thinking about the fact that by 2020, we'll have fleets of cars and trucks that drive themselves. And there are already pockets of this today, if you've ever seen the Google cars and things like that. That starts to make you wonder, well then what happens to the people who used to drive the taxis or the trucks or whatever they were? So there's some implications there. On the other hand, where this goes is that computers are going to become part of making judgments. And at times we're not going to be allowed to make judgments without the computer confirming that it makes sense. From there, this builds to what I was getting at. 1 in 3 knowledge workers will be replaced by smart machines that will help make those judgment calls. Now, in some places, you don't have enough knowledge workers. So if you think about the medical community, in many parts of the world, there are literally not enough doctors. And if we can help a doctor help more patients, maybe we'll do it remotely, where they're helping patients where there aren't even doctors, you can extend a lot of healthcare capabilities. So at times it's not people get replaced, but somebody can help more people, can handle more volume. But at other times, literally we're saying that we won't need as many people because the computers will take care of more of it themselves.